Morning, friends. Math on your own math lesson today. Independent practice problem solving is 475, 476. Complete the clock so both clocks show the same time. So before we actually get started on this, I just wanted to do a quick moment to talk about telling time. So if you're taking a look at the clock, there's two hands on the clock. There's the short hand and the long hand. Well, the short hand is called the hour hand. The long hand is called the minute hand. Short hand, hour hand, long hand, minute hand. Now, the colors are completely opposite on your homework, so just make sure you know in your working class. The colors on there are completely different than the colors on here, so you have to know that the short hand is the hour hand, the long hand is the minute hand. When you're telling time, you first look at the hour hand. So here's the hour hand. It's pointing to at the 4. So if it's at a number, that's the hour, it's 4. If it's the hour hand is between a number, like this, it's between the 4 and the 5, it's not quite to the 5 yet, it's still 4. It's the hour of 4. Or if it's between the, if it's pointing at the 6, it's 6 something. If it is between the 6 and the 7, you go back to the 6. The only one that's a little bit tricky is when you get up here to the 12. Again, you always go back one on the clock. So if it's at the 12, the hour's 12. If it's between the 12 and the 1, you go back to the 12. The only one that you don't go back to the smaller number. You go back to the 12, that's where it starts. So that's the hour. If it's between two numbers, you go back to the back a number. Drive back. If it's directly pointing at a number, that's your hour. Now, when you talk about the minutes, every one of these dots on this clock all the way around is 1 minute, which means that if you go all the way around the clock, there's 60 total minutes in an hour, and then you have a new hour. So if this is 12 o'clock right here, and you go all the way around the clock, it's 60 minutes. It's now 1 o'clock. Now, the nice thing, a nice part about this clock, and I'll zoom this in so you can see it even closer. Wow, it's really close. Look at that. Wow. As you get in here, you say, okay, well, that's 60 up here when you're using these. So you might want to grab one of these when you're doing your math on your own today. It might help you out. So you have 60 and then 61. 60, so you have 1 minute, 2 minutes. So you start at 60, that's 0, 0. So right here would be 1 o'clock, which would be 1 dot dot 0, 0. And then if that would be 101, 102, 103, 104, and then 105. And then 110 and 115. So every one of the numbers represents an hour when in the red hand, the hour hand's pointing to it. Every one of the numbers represents an increment of 5 minutes when the minute hand's pointing to them. So here, the hour's 1, the minute's 15. Right here, the hour's 1, and the minute's 1:30, because there's 30 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 1:30. If I still have the hour of 1, and I come all the way over here to the 10, all I do is I look here what's not quite to the 2. It's between the 1 and the 2. Not quite there yet. I count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So it's 1:50. This is when it gets a little tricky because you have these hour hands between here, and then it's not quite to the 2 yet. It's still between the 1 and the 2. You know it's at the 2 when you move this here, and boom, there, pointing to it. See it now? You scoot it back, it's close. It looks like it's pointing to the 2, but then when you look at the minute, you're like, ooh, it's not there yet. Now it's at the 2. So that's what you need to know about the clock. You can use these. They're on my table in the middle. Go grab one if you need to use it when you're working on it. Let's get started on your math on your own. Let me zoom this back out. Never going to be able to see it. Awesome. Complete the clock so both clocks show the same time. So here you're taking a look, and I'm going to put this clock all the way around so you can kind of see it in a bigger fashion. So this is what this clock right here says. It says the hour hand's pointing to the 9, the minute hand's pointing to the 60 or the 12. So in your brain you're thinking, well, I could write 9:12. Well, no, it's not 9:12. We clearly know the hour is 9 because that's the hour right here. Shorthand. But then this minute hand's pointing to the 12, but the 12 doesn't represent 12. It doesn't represent 60. It represents 00. Why? Because there's no minutes in the hour. It's exactly on an hour. It's 9:00, 9 o'clock. There's no minutes that transpired for that hour, for the 60 minutes. 60 minutes, when you're writing it out, means 00. Next one. Moving over one. So here, you should have written 9 o'clock. Next one, it says, write 2:25. Well, you can get the clock out and say 2:25. Well, how would you do that? Well, you come around with your clock, and you're going to find 2 o'clock. There's 2. But we want 2:25, so how am I going to get to 25? Well, this is nice because this clock right here has all the little handy-dandy numbers around the outside. This one does not. This one does. So you count 2 right here, and then you go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So your hour hand will be short in between the 2 and the 3. Remember, if it's between 2 numbers, it goes back to the smaller of the 2. It goes back 1 because it's not always smaller. The 12 is not smaller. And then 25 is this wonderful handy dandy 5. So if you were thinking like, oh, that's 2, 5. No, that's 2:25 because this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Counting by 5s around with that. Awesome. Over here, looking at the time, it's between the 12 and the 1. So again, start with the hour hand. The hour hand is small. You don't have to write this, but I want you to remember that in your brain. The hour hand's small. It's between the 12 and the 1. If it's between the 12 and the 1, ding, 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 you're going to go back to the 12. And then here, you're going to say, well, no, it's 12:08. No, it's not 12:08. You have to go around by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. And guess what? It's 12:40. So go ahead and fill the hands in here. Time in the digital, time on the digital. And then look at the pattern down here. It says 7 o'clock, 7:05, 7:10. And I would just get this wonderful little clock out and see the difference. Is it adding or subtraction between here? Is it plus or minus? And by how much? Is it increasing or decreasing between? Well, and that's going to be your pattern. I've got to write that pattern over here so I know. On the back, one of the clocks is running a little slow. The other clock is running a little fast. Estimate the correct time. Write the time. Write the time on this clock. Start with the hour hand, then go to the minutes by 5s. Once you write the times, figure it says the other clock is running a little fast and one's a little slow. Estimate the correct time. So I would split the difference between them. Find a time that's about halfway between both clocks, and that's going to be your answer. Here it says, look at the time on the first clock. What time will it be in 5 minutes? Write the time on this clock right here, and then add 5 minutes to it, and write the time. Right? Look at the time on the clock. What time will it be in 5 minutes? Write the time on the second clock, plus 5 right here. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Draw a clock that shows your favorite time of the day. So you're going to have to actually draw a clock. Why? It says draw a clock, and then explain why. What time is your favorite time of the day? And why? Because. And in this one right here, the minute hand is pointing to the 7. I would get this clock out right here. Which number will, it says the minute hand is pointing to the 7, which is right here. It says which number will it be pointing to 10 minutes later. So you have to add 10 minutes to this right here. You can count by 1s, you can count by 5s to add 10 minutes to it. I would get the clock to help you out with this, and then you can answer this question down here. If you have any questions, come see me. There's clocks on my table. Thank you very much.